right. Here we go. It's getting recorded. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Anya Kalka. I work in the Office of the Provost, and I'm the Director of Technology and Integration. Basically, I do anything that we have with technology. So I oversee watermark, faculty success, catalog, all that fun stuff. So today, what I'm going to be doing is giving you a training a little bit specifically when it comes to workflow. So I'm not going to be telling you what you should be including in your tenure promotion packet. I know Dr. Mary Balkan had already some training about like what should be included, but I'm going to be kind of giving you the nitty gritty how to submit it, the kind of the best practices. And also we have a very special guest with us, Dr. John Bushman. He's the Associate Provost of, I'm sorry, Dean Bushman, what is your full title?
Research and Innovation, and Dean of University Libraries. I also am bat boy for the Mets on occasional home games.
Thank you. So Dean Bushman's going to be here kind of like assisting me if there's like any other specific question, maybe, regarding the application. So we're going to be team tagging. Before I start, are there any questions?
No. So one quick comment. I'll raise my hand every now and then when I want to emphasize or clarify, like the Greek chorus, something along the way, because I'm a part of the provost office group that evaluates these packets for her recommendation.
Sounds good. Thank you. Let me start sharing my screen. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So first, we're going to do a little bit of basics. I know most of you are faculty success experts, but I just want to start kind of like same level for everybody else. So I opened the workflows for everybody on this call. So you either should have received an email last night or you were in the phase 2 this morning. So you can enter faculty success workflow 2 ways. So you can enter through that link, but don't worry if you lost it, you can just enter normally. So you don't have to save it if you don't want to. If you lose that email, you can always enter. So you would basically, the way to enter faculty success is to go to your Pirate Net. And once you log into your Pirate Net, you're going to have a lot of different checklets. So your screen might look a little bit different than mine, but basically what you're going to be looking for is that little faculty success checklet. So once you click on it, you should be able to log in. So I'm going to be showing you right now the beta site, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see. So depending if you already had a workflow open or not, maybe you never had this little tab. So normally you would have your activities, you would have your, managed data, but now you should also have this workflow tab. If you click on the workflow tab, it's going to look a little bit different for you because I'm the administrator, but the most important part for you is going to be the task. Right. So like you just always remember like workflow task, that's something like your to-dos that you're going to have to do. And you're going to have two kind of lines here. One is your inbox. So just think about it like your Outlook inbox, like you have items waiting for you, and then history. So history is going to be something that already happened. So maybe if you already applied for sabbatical, you might have some items in there from your sabbatical, or maybe if you did your tenure application before through faculty success. So this is going to be your workflows that are completely completed, or maybe they're in the process and it's not your stuff. But your to-do list should be in your inbox. So just make sure you have it. So it's very easy to open. If you just click on the name of your workflow, it should open. So there's 4 workflows that I open. So your workflow might have a little bit different name. So there's going to be a tenure workflow. There's going to be your promotion to full professor. So it's going to say promotion. We also have our colleagues at the law school. So it's going to say special law. And then also for anybody that's applying for lecture or like promotion to senior lecturer or a faculty associates, or for our colleagues in School of Theology, it's going to say that kind of special workflow. So it's just a name, so we will know how your workflow is set up. So you don't really have to think about it. But basically what the workflow is, it's kind of like a road plan. So the road is already kind of created for you. You just kind of have to follow it. So don't worry about which workflow are you on. Just make sure that you can follow the steps. So if you just click on the workflow, it's going to open your application. So your application is the first step that you're going to be submitting. So this is just a little bit of a preview of what the application is going to look like. And I'm going to go over that in a little bit more detail. I just want to help you understand like what the workflow kind of is. So going back, the way you're going to see your workflow, it's going to have your name, it's going to have your department, and also it's going to have your due date, right? So for the workflow, it's supposed to be October 1st, so you have to submit. And then it's going to tell you what step it is on. So it's going to be faculty, because that's the first step. So once you submit your workflow, you can go back and you can check on your workflow as many times as you want, because the workflow is going to be going to your department, it's going to be going to your college, the university rank and tenure, and you as a faculty member will have access to that workflow throughout the whole time. So you can go in and you can check and see like, what did the department say? What did the department share? What did the college say? So once you finish your step, this is how you're also going to know when you submit it completely, because it's going to move from your task, so from your inbox, it's going to move to your history. And then the current step is going to update. So you're always going to know where your workflow is. So it might say department chair, it might say the provost. So you can always go in and then you can see what your workflow is going to look like. And I know it's a little bit hard to visualize, so let me just show you an example of how this is going to look like. This is a test one. This is not a real workflow. So I'm just showing you kind of as an example. So let's say you already submitted your workflow. It's kind of, let's say maybe like March of next year. You can click on your workflow in your history, and then you can always track what you submitted, right? Because sometimes maybe you're going to think like, oh, did I submit the document? You can always go in, you can click and just make sure that it's there so you can kind of sleep soundly. So you're going to scroll in. So I'm going to scroll a little bit faster. I'm sorry for that, because this is a long table of contents. But then this is kind of where it gets interesting. So each step, you're going to see the decision, right? You're going to see the academic affairs, which is just a holding step, and I'll explain that a little bit later. You're going to see, well, you're not going to see that part because this is just a task, but external review, you're not going to see. So this is the only step that's hidden from you per the faculty guide. This is just for, testing purposes, but normally it's just going to say like you don't have access to see that one, but we'll say external step. And then you will see your department committee step. So then you're going to see everything that was submitted, so you can kind of go through. So you will not receive a notification when it moves to the next step. However, you will kind of know that usually when are the next deadlines, so you can kind of go in and double check. And usually the department chairs will send like an extra notification to you. I always have training with the faculty members, but you're just more than welcome to kind of go in and check. You will get a notification regarding the provost letter later in the step. So you will get a notification for that one, but you do not get notifications from the system when, let's say, the committee, the department committee submits it. And you will have access to all the documentation in there. So you can click on the documents, and this will always stay in your profile. So let's say in a couple of years, you're going to be applying full professor, and you're like, well, what did I submit for my tenure? You can kind of always go in and just, look at all the documents. So this is your history. So same thing if you already went for sabbatical, this is going to be, sabbatical is going to be in the history. So like all your important documentation is going to be in one place, and they're not going to get lost. So all the documents are in there. So here I'm going to give you an example of what, just make this a little bit smaller just for a second, of the workflow. And I know we have different people applying for different for different promotions or tenure. So this is a workflow for promotion and tenure. So if you're applying maybe as a law school faculty member, or if you're applying as a faculty associate or senior faculty associate, your workflow is going to be a little bit different. And in the PowerPoint I sent you, I have every single workflow like step by step. So I just wanted to show the longest one. So the workflow basically goes from a faculty member. So whenever you submit it, it's going to go to academic affairs. This is not a review step. This is just kind of like a holding step, because the department committees are supposed to receive the applications at the same time. So let's say if you submit it in August, it's going to go to the academic affairs step. It's just a holding step. It's just going to relax there and just wait. And then on October 2nd, it's going to move at the same time to the department committees. Then we have our external review step. So this is where your department chair is going to be submitting an external review. If your department is participating, it's going to go to the department committee, then department committee chairperson. And each step of the way, I will have training with the committees to make sure that they know what to do, and kind of inform them what the step is. So don't worry about that one. We're going to train everybody. Everybody will know how to do it. Just a reminder for the voting does not go through faculty success. Each department or college committee kind of votes on their own. However, the department chair or the college committee chair, they will be the one that will be collecting the votes, and they're going to be submitting in there. And then once they submit it, you can go in and you can see, all the votes kind of in there. Then same thing, it's going to go to the dean. Once the dean submits the review, it goes to the academic affairs, and this is another second holding step. So this is same thing, it's just a holding step because the provost has to convey and start kind of the university rank and tenure committee. So once they give the charge to the committee, then it goes to the university rank and tenure committee. They will have access to all the documentation and see everything, and then the process kind of starts. So there's different documentation that they have to submit at different steps. So that's why, as you see here, you have 2 university rank and tenure committee chairpersons in there, because they have to submit different documentation at the 2 different steps. Once that gets submitted, you will get your optional faculty response time, right? So this is something, whether you have additional response that you want to submit or not, this is an active step. And I did put it in the training as well in the PowerPoint documentation. So whether you have something or not, you will have to kind of push it to the next step. So if you're submitting your documentation, right, you just say submit to the next step. But even if you don't have anything, just leave it blank and then submit it to the next step. I will be, monitoring and checking, and there's also reminders that the workflow will be sending you emails and say, it's like you have 1 more day, the deadline is approaching, so you will get kind of that reminder. And I will be also checking, just sending like, hey, did you, push your workflow? So this is just because it's an optional step, so some people submit it, some people don't, but we kind of have to do it for everybody at the same time. So don't worry if you don't have anything to submit, just push it to the next step. So once it goes to the next step, this is where the provost step is. This is in that step. This is where you're going to be, the provost is going to be reviewing all the applications, everything that was submitted, and then they're going to be submitting the letter. The Board of Regents step, that means it's the letter from the Board of Regents. So actually the Board of Regents are not physically going into faculty system. This is going to be happening during the Board of Regents meeting, but then somebody in the office of the provost is creating that letter. So you'll be receiving 2 letters. So Dr. Bushman?
Yes, very quickly, it's going to be your responsibility to go in at the end of the process and download your own Board of Regents letter. So we're no longer doing it by Pony Express and having them sign on a clipboard that you got it. That's going to be your responsibility, and it's not open forever at the end of the process. I know that's jumping to the end, Anya, but I think that's worth noting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So may I ask, then that letter is going to be in faculty success too, in the workflow area?
it's going to be in your faculty success workflow. So you, as soon as they submit it, right? So as soon as the somebody on behalf of the board of regents submits the letter for you, you will get a notification. So you will get like a little email. You don't have to do anything. You will just get an email and say, your letter is ready for you to view. So you, because it's your application, you will have access to that letter forever. You will just not have it access like in your task. It's going to be in your history. However, for your, so the next step is going to be the dean's going to get notified, your department chair, your college chair, the university rank and tenure, they will not have access to your application forever. So they have until June 30th to go in and kind of look at your application and see, the letter notification, because, it is your application. It will still in your system forever, but the access for the committees, it does get cut off. But we do give them until June 30th so they can go in, see what the decision was. And then after June 30th, the workflow gets automatically closed, and then it's going to disappear from their history. Father Muzas?
Hi, I heard John Bushman say something, but it was garbled. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. Yep. What I said is it's responsibility to go in and download and get their own copy of the Board of Regents letter. I mean, that is how it is being conveyed to the candidates from now on. No more Pony Express riders knocking on your door to deliver them.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you will be getting email notification from Faculty Success. So you can go always, but even if, like if you lose that email, right, you can always just go in the normal way into Faculty Success and it's going to be in your history. So then you can go in. But for the notification step, I have like in the form even says you don't have to do anything. It automatically after 24 hours, it's going to move to the next step, and then it's going to notify your dean, your department chair, your college chair, your university rank and tenure, so they will see the decision from the provost. So you will have it. So this is the little bit longer one for the main tenure and then for the main promotion. And then for, let me just give you an example of a little bit shorter one. Promotion, sorry, because I have a lot of workflows here. Promotion special, here we go. So this is our workflow that's a little bit shorter for the law school faculty, and then as well as for your promotion to senior lecturer and then senior faculty associate. So it kind of follows the same thing. It's just skipping the university rank and tenure. So it goes straight from the dean to your faculty response. So it's very similar. You also will be getting the letters just as the regular workflow. You will get your faculty notification step. It's just not going to be going to the university rank and tenure. So there's going to be a little bit more time for you to submit your response. And then same thing, the response, because even though it's optional, you do have to push the workflow to the next step. And the same thing, I'll be, checking in, making sure that like everybody's meeting their deadlines. Before I move on to the actual to show you how the application looks like, are there any questions? No? Okay. So let me show you. All right. So I will show you how the form will look like. And let's make it a little bit bigger. All right. So you will get your notification, and then you will be able to go into your workflow. You can go into your workflow and edit as many times as you want. There's not a limit. The one reminder that I always have, it's always save your work. So because this is just an example how it looks like, I'm going to show you in the test one. So once you submit it, or once you even start working on your workflow, you're always going to have this action button here on top right corner. This is how you submit your workflow. So just a reminder, always save your draft, right? Faculty success is pretty good and we'll try to save it for you, but sometimes like the power might out. If you're, like working on your application and you're like, let me go, get some water from like the water cooler, just make sure you save your work so you're not going to lose it. Usually it will save it for you, but technology is temperamental. So just make sure you always save your draft. If you're going to be walking away for more than like 5 minutes, your computer goes to sleep, you just might lose your work. So make sure you save your draft. Saving your draft, it's not submitting it. You're still working on it. Nobody will have access to it. So just make sure you save it. You can go in so you don't have to finish everything in one sitting. Once you're ready, you can click on that Submit to Academic Affairs. If you're going to see this one that's grayed out, it just means that there's some mandatory fields that you didn't submit. So whenever you see it grayed out, just like scroll down through your application, just make sure you put all the documents, you selected the yes or no's or the drop downs in, because like 99% of the times it just means that there was like some mandatory field that you missed. If something does not apply to you, right, because we're trying, they're kind of just 4 different workflows, and I know everybody's a little bit different, just make sure you put some kind of document that would say, like, this does not apply to me because X, Y, and Z. But please do check your departmental guidelines, check your department just to make sure, look at the faculty guide, because this is our 3rd cycle. So just make sure that you submit all your documentation in. But this is how you're going to be either A, saving your draft, or B, submitting it to your next step. The biggest thing I will always remind everybody, please do not wait until last minute to submit your application, right? October 1st, please do not wait until like 11:59 that day to submit it, because, there's a timestamp on this, like till the 2nd. So I don't want anybody, because like the power went out, like, missed something. Give yourself a couple days. Also, you can submit it 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, a month before. Like if you're ready, you can submit it, and there's no punishment for you submitting it earlier. If you submit it before, let's say you submit it on September 1st, it goes to that academic affairs step. It's just sitting there and waiting. If, let's say, September 2nd, you're going to look at it and say, oh my goodness, I forgot this very important document in there, you can always recall your application, right? Because it's before the October 1st deadline, so you can recall it. So I would always say submit it earlier, because you can always recall it. You can always add that document, and there's no punishment for that. You cannot recall it after October 1st, right? Like if you submit October 1st and then it's October 2nd, you cannot recall that application. But before October 1st, you can recall it as many times as you want. So I would always say, give yourself some time. And then also once you submit it, right, it's going to move to your history. So you can go in and you can check your application and everything that you submitted as many times as you want. So you can be 100% sure that you submitted everything that is in there. Tom?
Yeah, just a quick question on that. If we recall an application, does the original material go back into our workflow, or do we have to like re-enter everything? If we withdraw it, does it clear out everything and we have to re-enter, or does it keep the material?
So it keeps the material. So the application goes back to you the way you entered everything. But like if you're gonna want to like swap a file, right, you're gonna have to delete a file, submit the new file in the dropdown, and then you're gonna have to make sure to submit the workflow, right? So it's very easy, because it will look just the way you submitted it. All the documentation is going to be in there, and then you can just edit or add additional document, whatever you need. But then you just have to make sure that you have to submit it again.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So we kind of went through the action. So just a reminder, you can save your draft, you can submit it to the next step, you can recall, and you can also withdraw the application. So when it's going to be also going to your optional kind of like faculty additional statement review, you can also withdraw your application. Please be very careful with it, because once you withdraw the application, I cannot reopen it. Like, withdrawing means it's like literally kind of scratches, like you're putting that whole application in the shredder and it just goes away and I cannot reopen it. It's not staying in your history. It's not staying anywhere. Don't worry, because like if you click it by accident here, right, like you also, it's going to ask you again. So even if you click it by accident, there's another chance for you to say, you know, like, this action cannot be done. Like, are you sure? So you can always say no. So just a reminder, withdrawing, it really means like just shredding the whole application, and it's not going to be there. We would have to reopen a new application for you right before October 1st. And then you would have to put like everything again in there. All right, so this is the faculty form that's going to be used for the promotion and for the tenure for our friends at the law school, and then also for the faculty associates and the lecturers. It looks very similar. It's just some things are mandatory. Sometimes some fields are optional. So one of the reminders that I want to give everybody is to combine all your files into one PDF. So the tip is, because we want to make this application as easy to read on the committee members. So I will kind of go into more detail on that one, but I also put it on top because I just want to make sure that like it's going to be, you know, your application is going to be the best application that the committee is going to see. Dean Bushman?
Yeah, this is really an important one because if you do a table of contents that says refer to TE, Teaching Evaluations 36, you know, the logistical demands on you to make sure you have, you know, 31 through 36 or 37, and that they're keyed to the right file number, are quite high. On the other hand, it's very easy to put things in order in one document, and then the table of contents simply tells you these are arranged in date order. They are separated by upper division, lower division, etc. And it's also OCR searchable, so the committee can go through it. This is a big one because we have spent too much of our time mapping our way through the applications with a complex set of a number of documents. Thanks, Anya.
Thank you. So this is basically, if you remember, the old paper forms are all it's just like a basic information that you're going to be filling in. Anytime you see, let me make this bigger, sorry. So anytime you see that little red star, that means it's a mandatory one. So it's going to be your drop down. So just put in your rank in there. Anytime you have a drop down, you just select one of the choices and it's going to save it there. If it's something else, you would use other and just specify what their rank is. You're going to be putting your years in higher education, postgraduate. You're going to put your date of hire at Seton Hall University, and then you're going to specify what this application is for. Your highest degree held. Oh, there's a question.
Yes, sorry, just curious, is that years in higher education beyond, it doesn't have to be at Seton Hall, correct? And does it include adjunct, positions? So if I've been teaching for 25 years in higher ed, but full-time only 7 years, do you put 25 or 7?
As long as you make that distinction clear, what you're putting down, your second definition is fine. It is not limited to how long you've been at Seton Hall, because of course we would have hired you because of some of your prior experience. So it just needs to match up and be explicable within your documentation.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. And then you're going to put your date of your mandatory tenure review, if applicable. I know some people are applying for promotion. This is not a mandatory, so you can just leave it blank. So this is where kind of the nitty-gritty of the application process happens, right? This is where you kind of going to be building your portfolio. So we start with the evidence of excellence in teaching. So anytime you see those little boxes, these are the upload boxes. So this is where you're going to be putting your evidence of excellence in teaching. And this is where I'm asking really nicely and also suggesting on behalf of all the committees, if you can combine it into one PDF document. So in that PowerPoint, if you scroll kind of to the last section, I put instructions, how to combine everything, because we're now Adobe Campus. You have the free Adobe that you can really just drag all your files, and you can arrange them however you want to. So I would really suggest if you can really combine everything nicely in the order that you want, so you can just upload one file. So the way the system sees PDFs, it basically, if you click on the PDF, it opens it very nicely in the window. And then same thing as Dean Bushman said, it's just much easier for the committee members to kind of follow your application, because we want to make sure that they have like the easiest time to kind of see your document, so they can like spend their time to really understanding your research, not kind of trying to figure out like where everything is. If you have any issues or troubles with like how to combine everything in a PDF, just let me know. Also, our librarians are trained, our TLTC center is trained. I know there's different, like some people are applying maybe with college communication, they might have some, like music notes, right? Like that's okay if you add additional documents. It's just when we first started, I think we were kind of uploading, and sometimes there was like 40 documents into that one excellence of teaching. And it was just a little bit, difficult to kind of follow. So this is just like the best practice if you can follow it. There's a question, Sina?
Yes, what is the size limitation here? So if we convert everything to one file, one PDF file, it's going to be a very big file. What is the size limitation for the file that we can upload?
So there's no size limitation as I know, unless maybe I was putting in pretty big files. I mean, like if let's say you have like 1,000 pages and like you would put it in like part 1 and part 2, that's okay.
Okay.
So, but just like let me know if you have any issues, just like reach out to me and we can work on it. Same thing. It doesn't have to be like, like if you have one PDF, but there's also like an Excel that let's say has like 50 columns in there and it's just like impossible to put into PDF. I feel like that one extra file or like a music file or there's a video, that's okay. So it doesn't have to be like, just one file, but not 50 files or 20 files. Just to make sure that it's as easy to view.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ellen?
Yeah, I know in my school, it's the custom to not just submit supporting documentation, but to also write a narrative of kind of what we see as our excellence in teaching. So does that mean we're submitting then 2 different documents, one which is our own narrative, and then the second, which is all the supporting documentation together in one PDF?
Would be helpful as long as you're naming the files accurately, so that we know we're reading a narrative versus the actual original documentation itself.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, would it be fine if basically just adding the documents at the end of the narrative, because that makes it easier just to also refer in the same documents. So starting with the narrative and then putting all the document at the end as an appendix in one big PDF file.
You could do that. You could do that as well, but for clarity, you're kind of combining documents that perform 2 different purposes. So your table of contents would have to be very clear.
There's a question for Louis.
Yes, I want to ask the teaching evaluations, if anybody could clarify that this is a student course evaluation or the class observation by peers in the department, which I should put in.
You should put in both. I can tell you that the committees and the provost's office is always, it always raises a question when there's missing information. If you've got both, and if your evaluations make reference to that, they should be in there.
So for both of them should put in teaching evaluation,
Yep.
right?
Yep, you know, but one file observations, one file student evaluations.
And
Yeah.
compile them together and
Yep.
upload into teaching evaluation. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can put like chapter, like kind of divide them, right? So that you can, like, if you combine your file, just make sure it has like the nice, title, so they will know when it kind of goes to the next section. And then same thing, just make sure that, because you're gonna have to put your table of contents, just make sure that like, you refer it, so it's gonna be a little bit easier. Tom?
Yeah, going back to Ellen's question, so is there still the old form that asked for 4 pages on teaching, 4 pages on scholarship, 4 pages on service?
No.
Oh,
I know which one you're talking about. It. No, you are pulling this documentation together yourself. Now, we of course have no idea what departmental requirements are. Departments may put restrictions or want it in certain kinds of forms, and that of course is fine. But university-wide, that 4-page limit is no. There, as a practical matter, there is only so much information the committee and the provost's office can absorb. So you want to think carefully about how you package and put things together.
right, but that I was going to say, kind of from my perspective, that form was a nice leveling tool because it sort of kept everybody to the same length, that you were expected to be able to explain your scholarship in 4 pages, rather than having some people provide a 2-page narrative and some people feel compelled to write a 20-page narrative.
Right. All I can say, Tom, is I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen both. The ones that come off best are clear, and they in fairness, there are some fields that take a little explaining what they are and what they, graph theory and mathematics, for instance, took a couple of paragraphs to explain what it is. So we don't have that kind of like you must do it in this form restriction anymore.
Okay,
We're
but
not encouraging. Go ahead.
But if our sort of department sort of says, kind of speaking with senior colleagues or something, they say, use that for a template, then we could still sort of, there's no penalty in using that as a kind of framework for this and still submitting it as though that form were still in use.
No, not at all.
There's a question from Ron.
Yeah, I just want to say that, well, first of all, thank you for the session, which is very helpful. Based on the discussions, I feel like this form or for promotion or tenure, I'm looking at my form right now, and I feel like there's something that's missing. That is the statement of introducing your research, teaching, and service in a brief way. Well, on this form, under my account, it just says, okay, evidence of excellence in teaching or evidence of publications. There's no place where you can upload any brief introduction of your different areas that we just talked about.
Yes, that can certainly be a document. I will quote Eric Lilquist, who said this in many venues. You really should lay out your case as to how you meet the criteria for promotion and or promotion and tenure. The burden is on the candidate to prove that you've met the requirements, not on the university to prove that you haven't met them. So what you just described, wrong, is exactly what should go into your documentation, whether it is the heading for a single document or it's a supplemental first introductory document. I recommend everyone do that for each of the 3 areas of the criteria.
Mhm.
Thank you for bringing
Thank
that
you.
up.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you for clarifications. I
Yep.
think it might be helpful to add, a brief, like a phrase or sentence about, okay, include a brief introduction and provide evidence that will keep everybody on the same page. And so there's no confusion, there's a lot of questions for the office, right? You don't want to spend a lot of time explaining these kind of things to everybody who
Thank
might not have attended the session today.
Thank you. We can definitely update that one. So those kind of like the little sections, you kind of have to think about them as those buckets, right? So like the evidence of excellence in teaching, this comes from the faculty guide. So make sure that like all your documentation, like that you would normally put in for your teaching, right? Like you kind of combine them in one. So like it's all the things that are kind of listed there, but if there's more, just make sure you kind of combine them into that one document. So it doesn't mean that it's only like one document and you choose either or. You can combine as many documents as you want that kind of supports the, the evidence, the excellence in teaching. And then, so the way you can upload your document, if you have your document saved, let's say on your computer in a folder, you can drag and drop them in here, or you can click and then you can just upload them as you will. So if you're going to be uploading more than one document, just note that it's important which order you're going to be uploading them in. So unfortunately, the system doesn't organize it in like alphabetical order, or if you put like 1.2. So if you put, let's say, something that starts with a Z, first, it's going to be first. And then if your document starts with the letter A, that one's going to be second. So just make sure you organize them the way you kind of want to put them in. But then also a reminder, try 1 or 2 documents kind of per section, just combine everything in there. Also a reminder regarding naming your document. So same thing, just make sure it's as easy for the committee members to kind of understand what this document is about. And then when you're going to be putting this in your table of contents, so you can refer it. So it's going to be like a little bit easier for them to find it. Father Musa?
Thank you. So if I'm understanding the recurring pattern of combine everything that you can into a single document, would it be appropriate to take, for example, all of our articles, book chapters, etc. Obviously, I don't think we can put an entire book in one PDF, but to include these in one document with a table of context. It's explaining this is where the book chapters are, this is where the peer-reviewed articles are, this is where the article that's currently under review is, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Simple answer. Yep. And
thank you. I love it when a plan comes together.
And we actually have had whole books in one file. It's actually one of the nice things of the age we're in. You actually can get a nice compressed, accessible file and get a book in there. So that's much appreciated.
Well, in that case, would you include the book along with all of the other documents in the one file, just with the one contents?
Okay, I am not now speaking for the provost's office. I'm speaking for myself as a user of this system.
Okay.
It's nice to have the book separated.
That's what I would have figured, but I figured
Yep.
I might as well ask the question because I can imagine people arguing either way.
Yep. It's nice to have them out there so that you don't get lost in such a huge file, and you know that you're reading the 2023 book publication. Very nice.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to the publications, right? So this is your second kind of bucket where you're going to be including your publications. So same thing, just make sure you kind of look in the faculty guide, your departmental guidelines, what you should be including in, and then same thing, there's a few upload fields. So this is where you're going to be including your publications and your narratives, kind of combining in that one document. So it's going to be easy to read. This is something additional that we have. So it's the scholarly metric. So this is something that you're going to be submitting separately, and the scholarly metric just basically really helps you and understand what is included in this application, what does count in there. So the scholarly metric, it's really easy to get because you just have to email the e-repository. They already have started working on it, so they're going to have it prepared for you. So just reach out once you get it. You're more than welcome to add any supplemental information, or you can leave it as is. But I'm going to also let Dr. Bushman talk, as he's the expert on that one. But this is why we have that separate upload field in there. And then we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you because they're ready to go. They're waiting for you. Just one email away and you're going to get it.
Yes, so we produce these in our research data services unit here in the library, and we are sensitive to fields. So for Tom Resnick's field in history, the H factor on journal publications in history and how many times it's cited is not going to weigh as much as the publisher of the book, the selectivity of the publishing venue, and how many libraries have picked it up in the years since he published his book, for instance. Rong Chen is in a different kind of field, and those more usual metrics, Google Scholar and Scopus profile of citations and the competitiveness of the journals. So that these are field sensitive to a reasonable degree. We also do pick up alternate metrics when something hits social media and is picked up and passed around. I've had that happen with one of my publications that got spread around very rapidly. And it will have some a month or two on it by the time you upload a version of it, but that's okay. I frequently will kind of like do a speedometer test and see how many more miles are on your Google Scholar profile or something like that. But it's these numbers and this angle on looking at your scholarship is done anyway. So you might as well upload it and address, successes and so forth. And we are also very aware that a 2023 publication, is not going to be cited by 5,000 people. That's just not going to happen. We're also aware of the relative size of other fields. So scientists are just going to have more citations than a librarian. Ellen?
So the section for the scholarly metric is not on my application. I'm a special. So, but could I still request that information from the library? It's available to me anyways.
You're going to get it anyway, but request it because that just puts you further up the queue for them to get to it.
Okay.
So that you could use that data in your own narratives.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so just upload it under your publication, combine it in there, or you can submit a separate document in that box.
Okay.
Tom?
Since this is something new, I'm glad to hear that you're mindful of sort of the different fields and how different metrics don't always apply for various things. Yep. But I'm curious whether there will, since this is something new, will there be training or any explanation given to the members of the various rank and tenure committees on how they ought to understand and evaluate this information, since presumably these different classifications may not be familiar to them?
How the rank and tenure committee understands even basic scholarly metrics is a subject of controversy. I have not, in my time in the provost's office, I have not seen it driving a negative evaluation. And in my experience, they go out of their way to try and understand what is reasonable. Let me give another example. Nursing generates a lot of citations. There's a lot of churn in that field, and they cull and cite their own literature pretty extensively. Some of it, and recall, the University Rank and Tenure Committee follows a college rank and tenure committee, which follows a departmental vote. So there are ample opportunities. These cases are not coming before anybody sui generis, like with no background. There's ample opportunity for the field and the people who work adjacent to the field to evaluate and explain. Which is borne out by experience.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I mean, I'm still sort of somewhat sort of concerned about that, but I guess I hope that in the report that if something does not apply to a field, the report that's generated will have a very clear like NA for not applicable or something like that, rather than sort of I wouldn't want sort of, if you're asking for a journal's impact factor, but a journal doesn't have it, I don't want it coming back as 0,
No.
It should be a non-applicable.
I can tell you, for instance, let's use an example of something like the Journal of Social History. I'm pretty sure, that is, as I know from my experience, that is a well-respected and very difficult to get into journal. What will often happen is the team will, instead of relying on impact factors, they will go to journal rankings in the field or library holdings or other outside evaluations and descriptions of the journal rather than impact factor. So it is definitely not one size fits all. Dr. Schultz last year applied for full professor. Her Yale University Press book had no citations yet. Nevertheless, it was quickly snapped up by a whole rafter of academic libraries, and that made its way into the metrics. So they really do try and sensitively craft. And you're free as well to supplement with information that we may not have.
Professor Lee?
Yes, thank you. So I can't help and see there is a links to online publications, if any, below the scholarly metric. I wonder, could we have some examples about this part? And what I know is that for each publication right now, the online publication are very common now. So usually we will receive the DOI numbers, and which could link to the publication. Should we also put those DOI links into this section?
Into your citations, yes, that always helps. It really does. I want to reassure everyone, I think you're going to get these in plenty of time, that you're going to be able to read them through and produce any modifications or additions to these before they go into your file. But I'll be honest, I look everybody up on Google Scholar, and then I look everybody up in Scopus who appears in there. And then I look at library holdings. So this just pre-packages a lot of that stuff.
And when you're going to be generating also your faculty success report, of everything that you put in it already going to have the DOI links to. So you can, the faculty success one, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, it's mandatory, but you can also submit your own additional CV as well. But that one's also going to help because it's going to have those links in there. So the links to the online publications we added in there because maybe there's some videos that somebody would like to showcase or something else. So this is just additional kind of option, because same thing, we're trying to, like do one size fits all for a lot of different disciplines. So same thing, if something doesn't apply to you and it's not the mandatory, it just means that maybe, we're trying to kind of think about everybody that that's going to be going up for promotion, tenure, and then what needs they have. So we just wanted to make sure if somebody says like, how can I put that link? This is the way you can kind of enter that information. Dr. Chen?
Hi again. Thank you again for the clarifications. Very helpful. I just want to talk a little bit about the scholarly metric. I contacted the library earlier in June or April. I mean, in May. They sent me the information about my publications, including like the index, the H index, journal ranking, acceptance rate, WordCat holding citations and peer reviewed or not. So is that about the scholarly metric that we just talked about? Is that something? Okay, great.
They may do a little more work in seeing if they're called alternate metrics. Those are track 2 in some of the tools, and they may well look at that. They sometimes look at downloads from the institutional repository.
Okay, great. One problem I found was that kind of information is a kind of limited regarding acceptance rates, for example. The journal that I published, one of the journals I published in, and I also serve on the editorial board, is called Research in Higher Education, which is a top tier journal in my field. But in the information that provided from the library, they couldn't find the acceptance rate. As a review editorial board member, I know that every year we had annual meeting, and we know the acceptance rate was really, really low, like 5%, for example, and they don't have the information. So there is a more reliable or more specific useful data set called Web of Science, which is which has much more detailed information and more reliable. But unfortunately, our Seton Hall library doesn't provide that access. So I think that if any of us wanted to have more information, we may need to reach out to colleagues in other universities who may have access to those kind of this data set.
Yes, Web of Science is about $250,000 a year. So we
I see.
Yeah, Scopus is about a fifth of the price.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Professor Nicotera?
Yes, thank you both. Appreciate all this information. Scholarly, just a couple points of clarification for the scholarly metric. If we did want to add some things that we find that aren't to the points that have been made, found in the report that we received from the library, then we can do a table of contents and then just include that as well, correct?
Yep.
Great. So
more information is better.
Great. And then just to confirm, what I'm hearing is the links to the online publications should not be duplicative. In other words, we shouldn't put links to our online publications that have been mentioned previously in our pubs section. Is that correct? Or should we, because all of mine are, online as well. These are separate from what I would have listed before.
I would not duplicate them.
Right.
So Monsignor Tom Guarino just published something in First Things. It was just in Inside the Hall. That's an online only publication. So that would go there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Dina?
Just for the scholarly metrics, what I received is that it includes some of my old papers. So can I remove those old papers, or basically
You're talking faculty success, right?
Scholarly metrics. So in the scholarly metrics that I received, all my papers since I started basically publication, but should all of them be here, or should I only limit those that are considered for the tenure and promotion?
I will give you the answer, because this is asked when people go up for reappointment or whatever, it is always helpful to know the context from which you are producing your current scholarship. So that which has been, whatever your appointment letter says, that agreed upon the work since you've gotten at Seton Hall or work that you negotiated that counted toward your Seton Hall rank and tenure application. That's what you're going to be discussing, but it's always helpful to know that we had a seasoned scholar who already had a start. Okay, more information is better, but being clear as to what you're counting is essential.
So do you think it is appropriate just to separate them? This is since I joined.
I have had people, yes, I've had them in their CV say, this is the starting point for Seton Hall. And that's been very helpful.
Perfect, thank you.
Professor Hansen?
Hi, thank you so much. This is so helpful. I had requested my scholarly metrics earlier in the summer on the advice of a senior colleague. The report I got had a pretty clear note that we could feel free to add to or edit the report. I just wanted to confirm that that was okay now that it's now an official upload box on the website.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
You
Thank
are not limited to our information. We are trying to give faculty a leg up.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. So then it's going to be your next section. This is where you're going to be putting your research and progress summary. So same thing, all the documentation, try to combine them, make sure they're clear, and just you drop and upload the files right in there. This is where you're going to be putting your university and community service, kind of like your summary, all the documents that you have in there. We also put this as an optional one, like if you have any affiliated websites that might be important for the application, you can put them in. It's not mandatory. So, Dean Bushman.
Yes, I just want to note on service. We actually do evaluate service as in was a really tough committee and not a tough committee, but it's a busy committee with real responsibilities. And if you perform this role, that was a valuable service. That was a valuable service to the faculty in the university. So don't just list committees. Do give a narrative description of your role. I attended the meetings and I drank the coffee versus I chaired an important subcommittee that pushed the work forward. That's always worth saying.
Great, thank you. All right, and this is your supporting documentation. So this is where you're going to be putting your table of contents, and this is, important because it's in the faculty guide. I know we get a lot of questions like, why do we have to put it in? It's a requirement of faculty guide. So just make sure that you upload your table of contents. Try to make it as easy and understandable for your committee members to kind of read and know how they can follow it. This is your faculty success CV upload. So this is where you're going to be uploading your faculty success CV. And I know that CV is not maybe the prettiest to look at, but it has all the important information. It has the links in there, and also make sure that everything is kind of showing in there. So please upload that one in here if you like, and also have additional CV, maybe the one that you kind of keep on the side that has a very different format. You can upload it as well, but please just make sure at a minimum you will have that, the faculty success CV, and I will also show you how to download that one. So that's a required document.
Anya, can I
of course
stop again? We do highly recommend your own personal CV. It is not an absolute requirement, but they are so much clearer and cleaner at points explaining and documenting the arc of your career than the faculty success ones. Each has its role, but reading through these, it's much nicer to not have to put a career together, piece it together outside of a CV.
Thank you. Your departmental rank and tenure guidelines. So please reach out to your department chairs to get your full departmental guidelines. Please make sure that they are for your department. We got a couple hiccups that we got the wrong one. This also is really important because it really helps when the committees are really evaluating, right? Because they really read them. They make sure, right, that they're going to understand what your department values. So please make sure you upload the whole full thing in there, not just like one page. Reach out to your chair, make sure it's the most updated one. That's the same one that the committee is going to be looking at. So this is where you're going to be uploading it. Dean Bushman?
Yeah, snippets don't count. We got to see the whole document. So we need to, it's very helpful to see for instance, in those rank and tenure requirements, what the third year review process is, so that we know what kind of evaluation has happened before it gets to us. So there's nothing more off-putting than having to search for that documentation.
Thank you. Professor Scully?
So looking in my own workflow, that's a required box as it is on your demonstration here, but my department doesn't have guidelines. So how do I get around that? What should I upload when we don't have guidelines?
What do they use?
The faculty guide.
Then that is a case where you will want to clip and put in a document and said that, the ICSST faculty guide forms our promote rank and tenure criteria, and put them in there in full.
Okay, so the appropriate section of
Yep.
the faculty guide. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tina?
Also about the contract, because inside the contract there are also points mentioned about how we are evaluated for the promotion and the tenure. Should I also upload my contract here?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I know which sections you're referring to, but that is adequately covered in the faculty guide and in your departmental guidelines processes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
It's just one more question. So there are parts in my contract, for instance, stating about my scholarship and all of that, from what date is going to be considered, or all of that. Can I take a screenshot of that and put that in my scholarship narrative?
That's a good idea to put that in your narrative. That's excellent. As long as it's accurate, like
just
yes,
a screenshot of that.
That would do it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. And then the last part, it's going to be just your signature. So you're just going to type in your name, just to make sure that, you reviewed everything. And then once you're ready to go, then you can click that action button and submit it. So same thing. I know this is, a lot of work. You want to make sure that everything's correct. Same thing. You don't have to submit everything at the same time. You can work on it. Just make sure you save your application. It's going to be always in your inbox, so you can submit it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. We can schedule maybe like a separate session too, just a quick Teams phone call, just to make sure if you have, like any questions, like I don't know how to submit this, or something's not working in there, I'll be happy to help. Same thing, a reminder. The biggest reminder is, let's not wait until the night before. Let's give ourselves like 3 days at least to submit everything in their application. If, once you see it move from that inbox into, right here, once you see it move from that inbox to history, that means it's submitted successfully. Then it's going to be in that academic affairs step. So you will always have, that chance to kind of go in and look at it. Oh, sorry, I have a question from Professor Lee.
Hi. Thank you for your advice. Just following up with what you said, is it okay? Like, we set up an appointment with you. Like, if we upload everything, so you take a look at your end, probably you can see all of that, like, in all of the views, and give some suggestions, like what we should adjust it, because we probably cannot see the whole pictures, and you guys are more experienced, so we can have some time to adjust before the final submission.
So you would have to do a share screening with me. So when you are working on your faculty success, even though I am the administrator and you don't submit it, it just literally says faculty in progress. So I cannot see what you have. I can only see it once you submit it. So, like I can kind of take a look and just see like, like if there are any technical questions, if you have any stuff like that. But like I cannot unfortunately help you with like, do I have everything for my scholarship in there?
Right. Yeah, right. I mean, just the format, but I got what you're saying. Like until I submit, you can see everything at your end. Okay.
And I also know this is a very stressful process. So same thing, if you want to submit the application and me watch you do it, I did that with a couple faculty members, so I can see on my side that it was submitted, it went through. So, I'll be definitely happy to do that, just not at midnight. But I can, double check if there's like any issues with you like uploading it, or if you have questions on how to like combine all the files, I'll be happy to do that as well. Too. And then same thing, if you submit it early, don't worry, you can always recall it, and you can call me, you can Teams me, and I can help you kind of walk you through how to recall it. You can upload the document. We can make sure that it's uploaded correctly in the new application and then submit it to the next step.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sina?
Just a question about external reviewer. So in the external reviewer letter, the default template shared by the university, we have to also share our documents with the external reviewer. Is there any way that we can share the link of the faculty, this basically workflow task to all the external reviewers, or should we put that on a OneDrive and share the link? So I don't know how can we share our document with external reviewers? What are your experiences here?
So unfortunately, we cannot give access to somebody that's not, like university kind of like employee. Faculty success has access to do the external reviews through faculty, like through faculty success, but because we don't have that process for everybody, and some people do it, some people don't. So like you could technically give somebody a link, but they don't have an account and they're not going to be able to go into that one. And the same thing, if somebody's not part of the workflow, they're not going to have access. So you can always download all the documentation.
But do you recommend just putting everything in a Microsoft Drive and share the link, because we cannot just email the documents? It's just going to be right. So do you recommend putting everything on OneDrive on cloud and share the link with the external reviewers, or?
Does anybody on this call already has any experience how they share their documents with the external reviewers?
Oh, with the external, you mean when the dean is writing?
So our department, there's a template on the university webpage about the email to external reviewers that gives a deadline for the confirmation that they will serve as external reviewer. Then there is a time that they receive the documents, and there's a deadline for them to submit the external reviewers, the external review. So when we are going to provide them with all this information, documents, what is the best practice here? Should we, what's the best practice? I don't know.
I've done this as a dean. I'm putting on my dean's hat. I'm leaving the provost's office now, and I'm sitting here as a dean. What I did was our rank and tenure criteria, for instance, is publicly available. So I shared that link. The candidates' publications were all or almost all had workable DOIs. So I gave those citations with a live DOI and told them that if they did not have access to those, I would get that to them post haste. And then finally, for a publication in press and another one that the DOI was not working, I just included a copy, a PDF copy. I tried to shrink the formatting a little bit, but That's the best way. The best way is to get it to the external reviewer in one email. And any links, you want to test those and make sure they're live. Links are fine, but getting outside access to OneDrive is a nightmare. So I wouldn't do that. I would live links and attach files.
I see. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Anya,
you.
thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So just a quick little reminder about the sabbatical, I'm sorry, not sabbatical, your Vita from Faculty Success. So the way you get it, and also I'm going to quickly go over the PowerPoint just to kind of go through the table of contents, is when you go to your reports, you're going to have a long list of reports and you're just going to click on your Vita. So you're going to click your start date, you're going to do your end date when you want to end it. And then unless you're a department chair, usually it will just set automatically to you. If you're department chairs, you might have to just select yourself. And then you can do your file format and you can do PDF, you can do Word, whatever, it's a little bit easier for you. Once it runs, right, double check if everything looks correct. So I can kind of go over that in more detail separately if you would like. But basically, if you see something that is not supposed to be there, just double check your dates, right? If the dates are correct, and that would be in your activities. If you're missing something, same thing, go to that publication in your faculty success and make sure that you put in that correct date, because sometimes it might be missing because maybe you didn't put it in. So same thing, just run that CV and then you would be uploading that one in there. So if something is missing, you would be going back to your activities. You're going to go, adjust your publication or scholarship in there. Once you save it, you would go back and you would just rerun the report and then it should be updated in. Professor Lee, you had a question?
Yes, just a quick question to confirm. So before the deadline, October 1st, the faculty success is all in place. We submit our tenure portfolio, right? Because before we use a PDF form, so there is no other place we should remember to submit the form, right? So this is the all in place we submit now, right?
Yeah, so this is your application and we're just trying to give you a little bit more extra time to kind of work on it. So same thing, this is your packet. This is like, I don't know if you remember, there used to be binders, there used to be Blackboard, but this is your whole application. That's where everything that you want your committee to see, it should be in there. You shouldn't be submitting anything separate around or somewhere else. All that stuff should be in there. And this is also what your committee members, your chairs, everybody will have access to this. So if it's in faculty success in that workflow, that's what they're going to see. If it's not in there, they're not going to see it. Hector?
Yes, I'm wondering if it's a good idea, just following what Dean Bushman was talking about, to give to link in the email sent to the external evaluators your faculty profile if it's up to date. Like, for example, I've been working on mine, so I know that all of the articles that they are accessible through the profile page. So if I send a link to my profile page, an external reviewer can just see anything that's available there.
I think that's a good idea. I'd still send an up-to-date CV. Provide that for your chair and dean.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just switch very briefly to the PowerPoint. I'm not going to go over the whole thing because I know it's very scary, 117 pages. But the reason why it's so long is because it explains all the workflow. So, anything and everything that I kind of said in here, it's going to be in there. So I have all the information, who you should be contacting, the best practices, the 50th probably reminder about the one PDF. I have a feeling that you all will have dreams about me saying just one PDF in there, so I do apologize for that one. More information about the scholarly metrics, how to submit it, the workflow basics that I kind of went through here. And then it's going to be the step-by-step tutorial. So it's very long because it explains every single step. It doesn't mean that you have to study every single step, but this is just so you're going to know, like, what this workflow is, where it's going to be going. So, like we just want to make sure that like everybody's comfortable and nothing is a surprise for you. So that's why it's a little bit more details. And then we also have great faculty success tips at the end that the library kind of submitted. So I would really suggest like if you just kind of could browse through it. But same thing, I'm here to help you. We want to make sure that this is as easy process that it can be. I know it's very stressful and it's very important, but we just want to make sure that you have all the information that we're here for you. So whatever I can do to help when it comes to the technology, same thing. Please make sure like you're reaching out to your department chair, to maybe colleagues that already went through this process, to make sure that you're submitting everything in there. And then same thing, just ask questions. Like I'm not gonna get angry if you ask me the same question a couple times, because I want to make sure that like we're on the same page, and you have all the answers. And I'll be really happy to kind of help you and make sure that once you submit the application, you can kind of breathe a little bit easier. Oh, Anthony.
Yes, thank you again. And just from my own understanding, point of clarification, when you say one PDF, do you mean one PDF for each section, for example, excellence in teaching? Not one, we shouldn't be submitting the same PDF with everything. And okay, good. All right.
Yeah,
Just
so
double
one
checking.
PDF, and by one, I mean like, 1, 2, like if you have that Word document, if you have something else, just not 20 or 30 or 40 per section, because it's very difficult for you to submit it to, because they shift. It's you're gonna have to think about how to name them, and you're gonna have to remember like in your narrative which document are you saying. So I feel like it's also not only helpful to the committee, but also it's gonna help you some time, and also a headache trying to remember like how did you name all your 50 documents in your teaching section too.
Yeah, it's the example we talked about earlier was perfect. All the articles, one PDF. If you got a book or a book, set of book chapters, one PDF. That's just very helpful.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So by the one, I mean kind of loosely under, like 5 fingers. So as long as it's like 5 or less, we're going to be fine. And this is just from the feedback of the committee. So we just want to make sure that we kind of give you, because we always debrief with the committee, so we always get the new tips and kind of tricks, and we want to tell you how the committees are thinking, so you can be ahead of the game and kind of support you, and it's going to be as easy as it is, because we want to make sure that the committee members are happy when they're reading your application. Relaxed. And then one more thing that I also forgot to mention is we also have our website where I'm going to be posting this training. So if you go to our Seton Hall website, Office of the Provost, and then if you scroll a little bit down, you're going to have watermark faculty success right here. And then if you click on the workflows, you're going to have all the information for the rank and tenure workflow. So you're going to see the older training. If you want to go down memory lane, this is where I'm going to be uploading this training as well. Usually it takes a couple days for them to upload it. But as soon as I turn off this training, just give it a couple minutes, because they're going to, it's going to load in, and then it's going to load into the chat, so you can watch it as many times as you want. But same thing. Reach out to me, email me. I'll be happy to, to help and answer any questions that you might have. Same thing, once you submit your application. So beginning in September, we're going to start meeting with the department committees to kind of train them, and we're going to be telling them very similar things, what I told you. So we're going to be telling them how you submit your application, what was the requirements that we asked you to do. We're going to be telling them about the scholarly metrics, so they're not going to be surprised. So we always do like very thorough training for every single step of the committee, so they will know what to expect in there too. So there's going to be a lot of training in my future, but to make sure that like everybody understands the process and it's successful. Any questions? No? All right, so how many PDFs per section are we supposed to submit?
One.
Just one.
One.
All right,
But Anya,
and
can I ask you about the table of contents? Can that be a Word document that we upload in that section, or does it have to
yeah,
be something else? Just a
so
Word?
I would suggest a PDF if you can, just because it's easier to view. So like build it in your Word document, but just submit it as a PDF because it's a little bit easier. It opens easier. So unfortunately, the way Faculty Success understands documents, whenever it's a PDF, it will open it in a separate window or in that window. If it's a Word document, it will download it to your computer, which
Got it.
then they have to open separately. You have to wait for that one. So that's why I suggest it's a little bit easier.
Thank you.
Yeah, but build it in your Word document. Once you're happy, just, export it into PDF and then you can just load it in there. All right. So if there's no more questions, I wish you all the best of luck. I hope, everything goes super smoothly. You know my email, you know my team, so please reach out. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the great session and the great questions. And thank you to Dean Bushman.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you
luck
very
to
much.
all of us.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.